Hey guys, welcome to welcome to Life and Style with Francyne. I'm a little excited today about my guest because this has been in the making for probably almost 6 to 7 months. I have personally worked with this particular guest, and I'm excited to have Monica Marie Jones on the show. Finally. We have a treat. I like to think of this as a lunchtime treat. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments section below. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming Monica Marie Jones to the show. Hey, Monica.
Hey, Francy. Thank you. I am just as excited to be here, honey.
Yes. It's I have to brag on you a little because I remembered last year when I was going through my own soul searching, launching a business, and trying to figure out what I wanted to call the business. And you so lovingly reached out to me. You remember, right? You lovingly reached out to me, unsolicited, no strings attached, because this is what you do. So I know that was truly a gift of, I like to say, friendship, sisterhood that you extended to me. And the reason why it's like, well, is it that extreme, Fran? She just reached out. It's like, yeah, because you were like, so what are you trying to do? What are you asked me probing questions first. And you said, well, what about your name, the unique spelling of your name? And I'm just giving away little details, but, and it made me think, it's like, yeah, I do like the spelling of my name. As far as, thinking about the naming my business, because I was going with Walker Media Group, and there's like, but beyond that, you took a moment, an hour, and I don't know what you charge an hour, okay? So that's also to say that you were extending not only that solicitation of advice or giving me that advice, but you were also saying, okay, let's just sit down. We sat there at Starbucks. I borrowed your charger, I think, because I never have my phone charged, and I should. But we sat down in that moment, and to have that, I want to say, discovery session.
Yeah.
And you were able to see when I had my face lit up when I talked about certain things. And I could almost feel when that happened. And it's like, well, yeah, and I was so clear. It was surprising to me how clear it was on what I wanted, the groups that I wanted to serve as far as philanthropic interest. I was very clear, and you noted that, and that really helped me. It kind of solidified and affirmed where I was. Like, man, I know more than I think I do. And you just need somebody to pull that out. And I think that was right before I did because I was like, oh, digital ambassador and and then I got the Hollywood gig. It was like, so everything, and came the way it did. And so I have my own personal testimony. You know what I mean? I think I just kind of like, but I just want to publicly, again, because I did give you flowers last year when we spoke. I went live and talked about it, but that was last year. This is this year, and I want to just still publicly thank you as part of this show, because I said we're going to have a talk. We're going to, I had Life and Style with Francyne back last year and 2 years ago, and it's like, I want you on the show. So I appreciate you taking time, because I know you're busy and I know you have a practice. And I just want to get as much out of you as possible. So, so let me stop talking and let you start talking. But I did not want to close this show or miss saying thank you again, because that session is kind of like playing itself out right now. You know what I mean? The things that we talked about, and I taped it. So I still have it in my phone. It was heavy, but it was good. It was necessary. And I think it's good and necessary what you do for everybody to have. So anyway, let me stop.
That was the best intro ever. A lot of times people read bios and it's like anybody can just read the bio on their own, but to have what your experience was, that is the best way to introduce me. And you completely described the magic of coaching. It really is a process by which we support you in gaining clarity and pulling out what's already inside of you, kind of organizing it. And I love the part about where you talked about where you lit up. I think there's so much interference in the world now with social media and comparing ourselves to people that we start to think we want a thing because it's what we should be doing, or we focus on money, money, money. But the things that really light us up and really light our soul up, you can literally see that in someone's face, in someone's eyes as you speak to them. And if you're really paying attention, you can draw their attention to that to get them back on track with what's in alignment with their soul.
Yeah, because we had the conversation, and this is so good because I remembered you took the example. I said I was doing an oatmeal sample, and I thought, who wants to sample oatmeal?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going home. I'm not, because I was doing a sample and I was telling you, I said, it was kind of like a defining moment for me where it's like, you get these cues, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a defining moment for me where it's like, I don't want to sample oatmeal. This felt like an oatmeal experience. And I love oatmeal, but everybody doesn't. That's not the most popular thing. It's not like chocolate chip cookies or, it's oatmeal. And you got to add so much to it to make it even mildly palatable. And even visibly palatable. So that was your oatmeal experience. You don't want to. And so just that it was just a magical process and moment. And it's kind of like a guideline. You talked about the coaching, but it's like you leave away from the field to play. You coach us on the field, but you coach us for us to play on the field of our own lives. That's what it felt like to me. So, what made you decide to encroach upon coaching? Why did you choose coaching as a practice? Because it always has to do, you can't do this without having some form of passion and purpose behind it. You just can't. You're dealing with people's lives, right?
Mm-hmm. And so, it actually started when I was a kid. I would literally be on the phone with friends. I remember in middle school, just like talking through issues and singing with them and doing all this stuff. And so all my life, I knew I was meant to help and support people. And I thought, well, what exists for this? So first I went to college to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And I learned that as much as I love children, like the systems around teaching were holding me back from what I really wanted to be able to do. So I said, well, let me go back and study social work and community organizing. And once I did that, I said, okay, there's a little more room here. But I noticed that the adults that work with youth really needed a lot of support to be able to show up for the young people in a way that was really meaningful, because kids learn a lot more by what they see us do than by what we say. So I delved into working with adults through like training and workshops and motivational speaking. And then I realized, there's something more that's needed than this one-off experience. Like people need this guide on the side to kind of hold them accountable and walk them through life. And so a friend of mine was like, have you ever thought about being a life coach? And at that time, the whole field of life coaching is still fairly new as a professionalized field. But I'm like, well, what's that? What do they do? And I started to do research and I started to really look into it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a perfect fit, particularly when I realized the focus is on process. It is not you telling someone what to do, giving someone advice. It is simply, you said, using those probing questions, using activities to get a person to tap into their own magic. And I was like, that's it. That is the practice.
That's powerful.
I really shifted in that direction.
That is powerful, because a lot of people, I think, are really, it almost appears that sometimes we aren't aware of our own magic, whether it's by way of experiences, childhood experiences, where I like to think of it where a lot of times people are lacking the confidence that they need because someone said something to them and they got locked into that place. And the person that said that to them walked away with the key. So they stay forever locked, unaware of their magic. So would you say coaching is a way of you allow people to become aware of their magic and you give them a new key, you give them a new key to walk through different doors, to walk through new doors with this discovery. It's like, oh, wow, this is like a new adventure, and it just seems like things align when you understand your purpose, right? And the magic that you do bring. And it's really life-changing. Like I said, it was just like, it's like I was able to hear things that you pulled out. Like, you can talk to your girlfriend, but they're not a coach. They might try and be. It's like, but I don't want you to be. I want you to do your thing. You know what I'm saying? But not to say that you don't mind your girlfriend's input or your friend's input. But this just seems a little bit more structured and with some goals involved, correct?
Oh, absolutely. That is a part of the process, whether it's a 20-minute coaching session or a 2-hour coaching session. You always leave with some tangible goals or action steps, and not something that feels overwhelming, like I don't even really want to do that, but something that's real, something that lights you up and excites you. And then the magic is the accountability. So it's not just like we set our goals each year and then they're dusty on a vision board or a shelf. No, you have someone coming back like, hey, how's that going? We have our next mission. So it really is like having someone hold up a mirror so you can see yourself clearly, see that magic, like you said, clearly. And another word you said that's really important is alignment. One thing I love to do with my clients is have them dig in and say, what are your core values? Like, what is important to you? And get clear on that. Okay, are your relationships, are the opportunities you're saying yes to, is your professional life in alignment with those core values? If not, you're going to be that plain oatmeal that you talked about, and you to make it better. But you should be starting with something that's magical without having to add all of that, right?
Yeah.
Or how do we get down to our core? And I also, with the core values, have people create their own personal mission statement, their personal vision statement, so they can maintain that clarity on their journey. Because so many things do make us forget who we are. And I'm just here to help you remember who you are.
Yeah. One of the things I love about you, Monica, is that you seem very aligned. It's a pleasure to work with someone who is doing the work.
Oh yeah. That is so important, Francyne. And like, that was actually a part of launching my business. When I went through a coaching certification program, they gave us like this self-assessment. And it was like, are you proud of your, are feeling good and confident about how you show up, your physical appearance, your website. Like, they had us think. And it's like, yes, it's not to say you have to be perfect, but you absolutely have to be doing the work and walking the talk to be the most effective coach for your clients.
Yeah. And do you find that it is a challenge at times, or is it more a personal, like, okay, I'm a coach, so I have to be a coach, appear like a coach, or it's just simply you being Monica Marie Jones when you're not a coach? You know what I mean? Do you separate the two? Does that make sense? Where it's like there's this sense of obligation to your profession, or it's the obligation more towards your personal aspirations? I mean, they're colliding, obviously, but do you feel pressure to be the best appearing coach, that you can?
Well, that's the exciting thing, Francyne. When you do the personal work and the self-work and you really invest in that, that grows your business and they merge. So
Yes.
a lot of what you see is what everybody sees, whether I'm coaching or I'm just your friend. And I think that authenticity and that transparency and that humanness also lets people know, hey, this is someone I can work with, and I'm not going to feel bad about myself or feel, it's just so refreshing because I get to just show up as me in all spaces.
Yeah.
Hiring, and it may also be the fact that I'm over 40 now, but there used to be like I have to show up like this in my professional life, and then I have to be this in my social life. Doing the work made it all come together. So now I get to just be, and that feels so good.
Now, talk about that, because I see a lot of different things in social media, probably too much. But I mean, we use social media a lot of times for our business. It's free for advertising and things like that for our businesses, for social connection. But I see a lot of things that can be a little disparaging, specifically towards women, that are aging gracefully, I might add. Talk about that freedom that we do experience, and why is that, do you think, women over 40? It is somewhat of a, you almost think, I wish I had gotten this or felt this way in my 20s or my 30s. And I always say, but you had to pay for this. The currency was time to get here. Do you believe it's kind of impossible to feel the way you do at 40, at 30?
I think it depends. A lot of it definitely was experience and time, but I also see this thing in some of my clients that are in their 20s and 30s, and I'm like, look at you. And I think it's an old soul, but also it's just that they weren't afraid. And I think this is something about millennials too. Like, they're not afraid to break away from what society and the world and different systems say you have to be.
That's true.
So a lot of it, and I see that that's a recurring thing with all my clients. Like, the main thing that keeps us stuck and holds us back is kind of like fear and mindset, our belief in what is possible. And so once you are able to shift that and like, just, even if you're afraid, do it anyway, that leads to the, not giving many more cares. Like, replacing cares with another word. I like
zero. Yeah, but it's the best. Oh my God.
Liberating. And I will say I had a little bit of it in me in my late 20s, because that's the last time I ever had a real job. Like, I've been an entrepreneur ever since.
Right.
And I remember just being like, I'm not feeling this in my soul. I feel like I'm betraying my soul. I quit. And I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have any savings, but it was the best decision I ever made, because I literally did leap and the net appeared. Like, that's when I realized, I can just do the same thing I'm have expertise in as a consultant. And I built out my consulting company. And back then, my friends thought I was crazy. One of my best friends in high school now is trying to, like, be an entrepreneur full time and just live her best life. And she's like, man, y'all, I thought Monica was crazy when she did this in her 20s, but now I get it. So it doesn't have to take us that long. We just have to either release fear or like be afraid and just go for it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something. So how do you help one, do you help one navigate through that fear? Do you find yourself doing that a lot of times in your practice,
Oh,
where it, you kind of like make, like I said, I can't do oatmeal. I can't do oatmeal. It's not even keto friendly anyway, but it's like, I can't, I mean, just scooping the oatmeal in those sample cups, it didn't even make sense to me. And it's like, that was an epiphany. So, but sometimes you can have that epiphany and not move.
What I help my clients do to push through fear is facts, very small and simple facts. Because we usually look at the big scary thing and we're like, it's too overwhelming, I can't do it. But for example, one of my clients for years wanted to open her own salon, but she's like, the rent, the down payment, the expense. And when she started, I just broke things down. I said, okay, well, how much are you making at this job? How much could you be making if you had your own business? Oh, dang. Then she had to make a down payment on her salon. And I think it was like $3,000. And she's just like, I can't. And I said, well, do you know 30 people who will give you 100? I was like, I'll invest 200. So actually you're, and I made her write down the list. And then she's like, oh, well, this person probably give me 500. This person will probably invest 1,000. So it's like just getting clear on the facts and breaking it down into small, manageable chunks helps you realize, oh, wow, this actually is possible. I've just been thinking about it in this big, broad, overwhelming way. But if I break it down into steps, action steps, goals, then it is possible.
I find that those action steps, first of all, I love accountability. I'm not necessarily one who works well in groups as far as, like, I like that one-on-one, even with training. It's like, give me one-on-one. And do you think people are more apt? Like, to me, you reached out to me and I was open, but I think you knew that. I don't know. You took a chance, and we've interacted back and forth on Facebook. And that's a good thing about social media. You kind of connect with different people, even without needing them. It's just like spirit over the internet, but you reached out to me and I was open, but I could have been closed even after we had that conversation. But so you took a chance. But do you find that if someone is financially invested, they are more apt to follow through with the goals and the action steps that you guys come to agree together?
Yes. So, but that's kind of twofold. For the most part, we usually say, dang, I spent this money on this thing, I better do it. Right. But I've also made huge investments in things and been like, I'm out because this is boring. Right.
That's true.
There really does have to be some sort of magic. I think it has to be connected to your learning style. So you have to be kind of honest with yourself. Like you said, I know one-on-one works for me. Groups do not. So even if there's financial investment, there has to be something that connects with how you learn. And sometimes too, and this is something I feel like we really deal with as entrepreneurs and sometimes women of color, knowing our value and knowing our worth. Because if the investment is not enough, people either will feel like, oh, it must not be good, or again, they won't stay committed and take it seriously. Now, if I invested $10,000 in a coach, you best believe I'm not missing not one session, not 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
But if I invested $20 and I'm like, it's just $20. So I think that plays a role in it.
Monica, do you think that is something that is plaguing, specifically as a woman of color to another woman of color? Is that something that is plaguing us, this sense of inadequacy, this imposter syndrome? The one I like to use where we just don't feel worthy. And so it's this thing that we have where we just kind of abandon our own goals. And it's just this codependency where it's more valuable to focus on other people's projects and goals and dreams than it is to tap into our own, much less coaching. But do you find that occurs? And, I know you can't, this is not about calling anybody specifically out, but just maybe do you see that sometimes where people are still, their head is in the clouds for someone else and what they have going on because they don't see their dreams and goals as valuable?
Oh, absolutely. I think we are.
That's a loaded question. I know that was a lot, but I was just trying.
So true. It's something I still struggle with to this day. We want to help. We want to give. We want to inspire. And what I found is we often keep our promises to everyone else but ourselves, right? So I'll schedule to talk to you at Starbucks and help you to be encouraged and inspired, but then I'll cancel the date I made with myself to work out, because I'm like, oh,
yeah, yes. Right. Like, because you had, and you know what? You did have something, you were on schedule, it's like, I got it. Okay. We got this amount of time. And because I was so appreciative, it wasn't like I wasn't going to show up and, or be late. And it's like, oh, I'm just sitting here, kicking it. No, I wasn't that kind of, what you can do sometimes with your girlfriend. It's like, okay, we're going to meet at Starbucks and we're going to write our personal vision statements. And then we get all caught up doing something totally different, or we meet up to work out. I don't typically, this is me, and I get a lot of slack for this. I do not like working out with people, and I don't. I give me a trainer, but I know that. So when I say that to people, they think I'm being mean. It's like, no, because I end up training you and not working out for myself. So I have some boundaries, and I think sometimes we're chided for having boundaries, and and people, that's just not a normal thing. It doesn't seem like we're still coping with people who don't understand what boundaries are,
And that's exactly the word that came to mind when I heard you describing that, but they're necessary for a couple of reasons.
Yes.
One, when we don't set and honor our boundaries, it actually shows up as resentment, right? So you're going to start resenting your best friend or resenting your family member who you're helping. Right. And you're like, dang, why don't I want to talk to them or answer the phone or, why?
Yeah.
That, and we want to blame them, but that's actually an indication of a boundary that we have failed to set or honor.
Yeah.
The other thing I learned this personally is that sometimes when we help someone too much, we are actually hindering their growth and taking away, like, think about how proud of yourself you feel when you pay off a debt, or how proud of yourself you feel when you accomplish a goal. Well, if you are doing that for someone else, you're taking away that good feeling from them, that good feeling of confidence and accomplishment of figuring it out on their own. So when I started to reframe it and think about it like that, like, actually, I'm giving this person a gift by not enabling them, or actually I am, now not resenting this person I love. That really helps you to understand the importance of putting those boundaries in place and honoring them.
Yeah. Because you'll get people will reach out and say, hey, I've got this project, and they want your magic. Mm-hmm. They want your magic because, see, you may not always see your magic, but others can see it, can see it a mile away, so it's like, hey, I got this project. I want you to bring the Fran to it. And the Fran dust. And it's like, no. Mm-hmm. And, it's sort of like when you say that, you kind of get a little bit of pushback, and some people will kind of insist. And it's like, no. Mm-hmm. Complete sentence. No. Because you already know that you're going to carry it.
Yeah.
You're going to end up carrying it, and you're going to abandon what you've got going on, because sometimes the goals we have, they take a minute to manifest, right? Even with the action steps, you've got those action steps to the main goal, but sometimes there's this disruption where somebody wants to come in between action step 3 and 4,
Yeah.
and disrupt. So do you find that happens sometimes where you might have, like, you have this accountability with one of your clients, all of your clients, obviously, but it's like, hey, did you get that done? And they have every excuse in the book to get from 3 to 4. Because it's like, Ray came in, and it always, Janishua came in, and they are all distractions, innocently so. And that could be a viable need they have. But I think us as Black women, specifically women, period, because that's just the way we've been conditioned. Mm-hmm. But we want to be Mary Jane. You know what I mean? Take care of the brother, take care of the other brother, take care of Niecy, and neglect ourselves. So do you see that sometimes where there's this disruption because somebody wants to collaborate, and it's like, it's just energy. And sometimes it's like, why? But it just seems like that happens in the universe where you set your mind to do something and you're on your way, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step. And then the 5th step, everybody wants something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of accountability. On the one end, by having someone who is going to check in with you, what will often happen, and I do this too with my coaches that I have hired, is I'm like, oh man, I got to meet with Francyne tomorrow. Let me hurry up and finish this action step. So just knowing you have someone who's going to ask you may motivate you to continue. But the other nice process about coaching is I am not here to police you. I am not here to punish you. So I will talk with you about the action step and, what got in the way, what were the obstacles. And sometimes it may be a matter of readjusting or reassessing a goal because we may not have been realistic given our capacity or given other factors in our life. So that's okay. Let's revisit it. And now let's readjust. Do we need to move the date back? Do we need to make less steps? So it's an ongoing process. And that's why it's important to do that over time.
Yeah. So I come to you, Fran gave me this great review and gave you this great review. And so my girlfriend calls you up because she's stuck. It's like, hey, maybe you need a little bit, because you recognize your own capacity you can only do so much. Yeah. And I think sometimes we need to hear it from someone that is not a friend or not a family member. And usually you're going to say the same thing.
Well, it's funny because I'll have clients say, oh my gosh, my husband's been trying to tell me this for 11 years. Now, suddenly, when you had me do this activity,
yes,
I get it because I'm a visual learner, or maybe they just need to hear it from someone else, someone neutral, to know, okay, something I need to consider.
So this is the process. I call you up, and what happens next? What do we do? How do you work your magic to help us become our best selves? As far as what's the starting point, and just kind of give me an idea how you would handle a new client.
Yeah. So one thing about my approach is I very much infuse my background in education and social work in a concept that's called experiential learning. So instead of just talking or instead of just listening, we're also doing interactive activities. And even though now everything is virtual, I still have a way to have you drawing and creating and, things together. So in the introductory session, it's really a deep reflection that helps you put everything out that's going on, sort it, organize it, prioritize it, and zero in on what really matters to you, what really energizes you, and the 1, 2, or 3 areas where you really want to grow. Again, the problem is often overwhelm and too much and not knowing where to start. So what keeps you unstuck is looking at everything that is. So one of the first activities I do with many clients is, what's on your plate? We literally draw on a plate, or I create a virtual plate that we draw on electronically. And we list everything personally, professionally, hobbies, debts, whatever is on your plate right now. And then, hey, what energizes you? What do you enjoy? What do you want to stop doing? What's taking up too much time? And just the fact of looking at that visually. And the other really powerful thing about coaching is you as the client getting to hear yourself out loud. So often we're in our head and we just blah, 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 all in our head. But when you hear yourself say some stuff out loud, you were like, dang. Well, that's the answer. And my client, they all do it. They be like, dang, Monica. And I'll be like, I didn't do nothing. I'm just listening. And you're listening to yourself. I just put this structure and this process in place. And they literally come to the answer themselves just by having a space where someone is actively listening, not offering judgment or opinion or advice, but letting them sort through in a very organized and intentional structure in a safe space.
In a safe, that right there, safe space, saints. Turn to your neighbor and say safe space, safe space. You know,
because that's it. Like, you don't know. It's so hard. You know, you tell somebody a secret, say, don't tell nobody. Next thing you know, you're hearing it out in these streets, right? So it's like, I take confidentiality very seriously. You know, what happened here is here. Also, free zone. We judge ourselves enough. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, you know, this idea is stupid, and you know, I'm really weak, and like the way we judge ourselves, we don't need anybody else to do it. So whatever. You don't have a straight. It's like, oh, say more.
Yeah.
So
and you know, that's the thing. I think that is a lot of times people. I remembered, and this is, you know, very recent. I said, I want to do this. And I've been holding on to this thing. And it's like, if I don't tell anybody, once I execute it, you know, and it doesn't work, nobody knows. Nobody will know. However, I think I needed to say something. And I said, okay, you know, but you're waiting on that safe space.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that my girlfriends aren't, but you're still, you know, that self-judgment thing. It's like, oh, this is a good idea, or this, I don't know. What if, because you're like, if they reject me, or I don't get it, or it topples or whatever, nobody will know. But yet, when I have the conversation, I say, okay, I got this idea and I need to get it out.
Yep.
You know, just hear me out. And even getting it out is like, you're walking on that thin ice, hoping you don't, dip down or fall into the deep water, whatever. And then what ends up happening is you share that conversation, or you share that thing, and they're able to help you kind of devise a plan. It's like, and then later on you say, I'm so glad I said something, you know. But I think a lot of times the great thing about coaching, for me, it seems, is a lot of people are suffering because they don't feel safe.
Yep.
You know, they're suffering, going through the motions in something, going through the motions at a job because they don't feel safe to share. So that confidentiality piece is so key.
Yeah. And and you made me think of something else. Like, as you talked about all the thoughts that come up for us when we want to do a thing, what if it doesn't work, this and this and that? It reminds me, and this is probably going to be in my Monday message that I write. It reminds me of uninvited guests. Like, when people just pop up over your house uninvited, my mother would be like, no. And so as an adult, I'm like, no, do not invite yourself over. Don't pop up uninvited. I will not open the door. So that is something I've shifted my mindset to. When some of those limiting beliefs or limiting thoughts or imposter syndrome creeps in, I'm like, oh, you knocking, but I'm not going to answer that door. You're going to go away eventually. You know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Sharing with family and friends and loved ones is they just want to help, but they don't always know the right thing to say. So either they're like, well, that's never going to work, or even, I think even more detrimental is a bunch of yes people, especially as we're growing and we're getting more successful. Just oh, that's great. Yes, that's awesome. Oh, you're so cool and smart and pretty. Like, we don't need that. Like, we need to grow. So we need someone who knows how to facilitate a process, even if it's us giving our own selves feedback, but not someone who's just going to constantly compliment whatever we do, even if it may not be the best route for us.
Briefly, I'm so thankful that, I have you for this moment, but I am cognizant of the time. Give us a difference. What's the difference? I get this a lot, or see this a lot. What is the difference between coaching and therapy?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. And that's also a part of the education process when I take on a new client. Everyone that comes in has to sign a terms of service. And in the terms of service, it spells out, like, here's the difference between a coach, a counselor, a mentor, a therapist, because people get them mixed up.
Yeah.
So you think about a therapist who, it has been licensed and they've gone to school to really focus on mental health. A lot of them have different approaches in different areas of expertise, but much of it is really like digging into the childhood, kind of looking at how your past affects your future and moving through that.
Sure.
There's some of that in coaching, but coaching more like I feel like we work in tandem. I feel like I'm a team with a lot of different therapists where, the helps you work to that point. And then when you're ready to move forward, like, okay, start this business or, go on after this divorce or whatever, I'm the one that focuses on the forward. Okay, what are the goals? What are the action steps? And therapists do that too, but the coach is very much about, okay, what are the actions we're going to take when a lot of therapy is really like, let's go back and let's see how what has happened has affected you. So I think they work nice. I have a therapist and a coach who was a certified therapist. So
yeah, I'm telling you, if more people understood how, I remembered after I had my son years ago, I don't know if it was postpartum or whatever, I just felt the need to talk to someone. So that's when I started going to therapy. And I think I was 26, 27. And my girlfriend tells me to this day, you made therapy so vogue.
Francine, it's so important that we do this and we talk about the fact that we do it, because I think it very much is taboo in our culture, in our community. Yeah. I mean, I remember initially people just saying, well, why don't you just pray about it? Well, I pray and I continue to pray, but sometimes my brain is so overwhelmed by trauma or whatever that I can't long enough to pray, right?
Yes.
Other supports are in place. And I'm glad you mentioned postpartum, because one of my friends that's also a therapist and a client, when we have a child or any other thing that people feel you're supposed to be so happy about, it is a disruption or an interruption of our identity. And there's a lot of loss associated with it. So my friend, she talked about, and the Sisters Couch is her company. It's amazing. She talked about there's a loss of your physical self of how you used to be. There's a loss of your friendships. There's a loss of how your relationship was before the child. So I think it's so important for us to talk about these things, especially with a trained professional. Just like we go to the doctor or the gynecologist regularly, we wouldn't say, oh, let me just take 10 years off from going to get my checkup. No, our brain is what operates all of the physical parts. So why do we put so much emphasis on just the physical medication and support, and not the thing that runs the whole system? So I think it's not just when something's wrong. I think therapy should be a regular maintenance practice.
I do too. I do too. Even, especially after you find a good one.
Oh yeah.
And I've looked up my past one in, a couple of them, and they've been amazing, amazing, amazing. I sing nothing but praises for the ones that I've had. And, it's a process to find one. It's a process to find a coach that you click with. Is there something, is it a lifelong, do you think you need a coach for, from now on, like you do a therapist, or is a coach mainly to get you to a certain place and then you're done?
It varies. I think different things are for different seasons. So like some people I took to a point of launching the business and now they're good. They're continuing to use the processes and things I have. They might come back for a one-off session if they're working on a new idea.
Okay.
Then, sometimes you just need that person through life. I know people who've had their coach or their therapist for 10, 15 years because after that amount of time, this person knows you so well. It's like, hey, might as well not start over. Might as well keep working with this person. Then I think as you grow, your needs change. So now I've added a financial coach to my dream team, my personal board of directors. So my coach does one thing, my therapist does another, but the financial coach really helps me break down as I manage more money. So I think it depends on the season and just your comfort level and, where you are in your life.
Okay, I see we've got a little bit of time and I don't want to run into your next appointment. Thank you so much. Where can we contact you when we need to launch and just go ahead and walk into our best selves? How can we get in touch with you? Give me all your social media handles and contact information so that we can go ahead and just get started.
Fun fact, the reason I use my middle name is because so you will only find me. So if you Google Monica Marie Jones, me. And that's my website, MonicaMarieJones.com, Monica Marie Jones on Instagram, Monica Marie Jones on Facebook. The only reason it's on Monica M. Jones on Twitter is because they wouldn't let me use any more characters than that. But my website is like the central hub where you can get self-guided courses. You can schedule an appointment with me. You can get free journal prompts for 31 days. I just have all types of my blog. I have all types of resources there to just help you at wherever you are in your journey, personally, professionally, financially. There's a little something for everyone.
One quick thing. Can you give us a word of hope in the midst of everything going on before we sign out?
Oh, absolutely. When the future is uncertain, just take it one day at a time. And I got to credit our girl Sylvia Hubbard for this. And if one day feels too overwhelming, take it 1 hour. And if 1 hour feels too overwhelming, take it 1 second. We don't have to go by the same formulas we followed before all of this happened in the world. So flip those formulas on the head. If you're like, I used to work 8 hours and take a break every 2 hours for 15 minutes, maybe you need to work for a focused 15 minutes and take a 2-hour break. We have the freedom and flexibility now. And if we don't take the time to get our mental health and physical focus in order, we're not going to get nothing done in those 2 hours anyway. So a formula and a structure that works for you, and that's going to lead to your freedom and productivity. Thank you. There are no rules for this new normal. The old normal wasn't working. So here we are with an opportunity to recreate. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Monica. I feel so much better that I have kept my word and shared you with the world from my perspective. And gave you your flowers yet once again. Compliments of Life and Style with Francyne, all the roses and whatever other favorite flower that you love. I appreciate you. Thank you again. You guys can get in touch with Monica through Google, Monica Marie Jones. Find her on Twitter, Monica M. Jones on Twitter, Monica Marie Jones everywhere else. Thank you, Monica. Go bless the world, and we'll talk to you soon, okay? Francyne. All right, talk to you. Bye-bye. Thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of Life and Style with Francyne. That was a great, great show. You can find me at Life and Style with Francyne, my Facebook page, my Instagram TV, Francyne Walker TV, and my regular page, Facebook page, is Francyne Walker. And then you can find me on YouTube, just hashtag Francyne Walker. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. That was great. We'll talk to you next time. Mwah.